Fights with fiancé about family status. My fiancé, 26M, and I, 26F, have been in a relationship since August 2022. I had just got out of an abusive relationship with my ex, one that lasted 4 years. I met my fiancé, then BF, through Insta, and when I finally met him I felt like it was a whirlwind romance where I fell extremely hard and felt like he was my soulmate. I belong to a very conservative South Indian family, and I could never freely date. However, due to my age and some sudden circumstances, I decided to introduce my family to my then BF. My family initially disapproved, considering my older sister followed the traditional route of an arranged marriage. Since I was old in traditional marriage terms and had refused to arranged marriage, they were more open to the idea. I was so happy and truly glad I was getting to call my soulmate my husband, but somehow a lot of latent issues have creeped up lately and I feel lost and empty inside. I need advice. Everything went well for a while, except for the few areas below. Now, for context, family name/status and caste is a very important part of the marriage process. My fiancé traditionally belongs to a well-established family with wealthy and privileged ancestry, whereas mine is relatively unknown. To be honest, my family name is nothing. We are your typical first-gen expats in GCC who migrated and do not really have a lot of connection or wealth per se in India. My parents only worked hard throughout their life to give me the lifestyle I have, and never got the chance to rely on their family name/status to get somewhere in life. Saying this, my BIL's family is equally, if not more prestigious. I typically grew up never really thinking about family names. Mostly because I grew up in GCC, and such titles were not common here. However, my fiancé is not. He grew up hearing stories about his lineage and is immensely proud as he should be. When we first started dating, this was never a thought. As I mentioned, I have never asked and never will ask someone's house name, but as of late it had become a sort of hindrance in our relationship. For instance, he constantly reminds me that my family and I are lucky that we are getting him as a SIL, because my father would never be able to get a catch like him if he went the arranged marriage route. It's no surprise that my FIL and MIL disapprove of me. I wouldn't mind it so much if my fiancé didn't constantly remind me of it, saying things like, "My father was upset that his only son is getting married to a family nobody knows, but don't worry, I'll protect you." However, whenever we fight, he brings up the exact same quote as the above, saying that he protects me from his family but is now at a rift with them because of me. I told him he makes me feel about. However, as of late, as with all couples in wedding planning season, we have been fighting more. These fights in turn are getting nastier and nastier. I told him I was traumatized by being yelled at, and that I was scared of him whenever he got angry. I can't help but cry in these situations as it instigates my fight or flight reaction. Our first fight related to the wedding was of the actual date. I had mentioned to him that I was being pressured from home to be married. I had taken a flight alone in June 2023 to visit his father in India, extremely ballsy in my community, wherein they decided that July 2024 would be the perfect time for the wedding. My parents agreed and so did I, so in my mind it was set. This was exactly a year later and it was perfect in my mind. Then about November 2023, a month before our marriage fixing ceremony in front of our extended family, my fiancé tells me he wants to shift the date to December 2024. I would have understood, but his reasoning was that he was too young and wanted to buy a multi-million car to keep up with his family prestige. I was flabbergasted but explained to him that I was under pressure and some of my family members know I am getting married in July. I told him I understood that he's worried he is getting married young, but that I would be there for him. Moreover, there was enough time to gather funds from June 2023 when his father decided the date. He started yelling at me, telling that I had no right to say no to him. However, a week later, he speaks to his uncle and suddenly July is perfect because it is better sooner than later. Second was on the place of the wedding ceremony. I grew up in the Roman Catholic Syro-Malabar faith, which is a very niche community in South India. I had always told him about my dream to be married in a Syro-Malabar church, and mentioned it was where we couldn't compromise since he also belongs to the same faith. Due to recent events, almost all churches in his district do not conduct masses, except for one which is an hour away from the hotel booked for the reception. I told him it was okay, I didn't mind the travel and it was the only church available. He again yelled at me saying that it was too far and that I had no right to say no to him. I told him it had been my childhood dream to be married in a Syro-Malabar church and nothing else. He yelled at me while on call and was caught by his parents. He again blames me for this, as it was because I refused that he yelled, and then his parents caught him and as a chain reaction his parents berated him. In reaction to this fight, his parents decided to book the only church available. Third, we fought over the timing of our ceremony/reception. Exhausted from the week before, he suddenly calls me to tell me he's changing the timing of the ceremony, no discussion and initiation, nothing. I told him I couldn't as I had already paid non-refundable advances to muas and hairdressers for me and my family. He started yelling at me again, saying that I was always saying no to him. I admitted I was in the wrong here, apologized and found a way to change the booked timings. I lost one deposit, but I didn't mind. As again he was my priority. He explained how he didn't like hearing me say no, as that shows I'm not willing to compromise. I made sure to never say no outright. Today, while going shopping for his wedding suit, he tells me his dad wants to buy another sari for the wedding, as his dad is in India, couldn't come to select the sari, and was offended he was not included, even if I reminded him his dad needed to be a part of it. I listened and understood, but I mentioned that I needed the blouse for the sari to be stitched, as there was not enough time from my arrival in India to the actual date of the wedding, and I was told it would take a month for my other sari blouse. Before letting me further explain, he just blasted at me yelling on top of his voice. I was shocked for a few seconds, and I couldn't react. He told me something, but it was like white noise, until I came to my senses and realized he asked about some directions on Google Maps. While I went to type in the directions, he told me to forget it and swerved the car back to my house. For the entirety of 20 minutes of the car ride, he brought up wedding fights 1, 2, and 3, and my ancestry. I just continuously cried out of shock and couldn't utter a word. He said that I had changed. He alleged he didn't realize the day he agreed to marry me. He agreed to be my B*******ch, that I always treat him like dirt and have never been understanding and that everything goes my way. He muttered things like, "I can't believe I'm getting married this young," or "I can't believe this is who I'm marrying," and again reminded me of my low status and that my father could never find someone of his status. He said he could go in marriage market right now and see the value he'd bring. Obviously I'm hurt by these statements. He further said that he didn't care that I was crying. I was so confused, because I was hands down for it, but I only brought up a concern. He just went on a rampage. I finally built up the courage and told him that I did not refuse to the idea. To this he said I only bring up problems, not solutions. I told him it was a concern, as it's my bridal attire and I was told it'd take a month and wanted support in getting it done within the time frame. Following this, he asked why didn't I say this? To which I answered I wanted to, but was randomly yelled at. It further escalated with him telling me to get out of his car. At this point, I feel so empty. I truly love this man, and he's more than aware that I just cannot live without him. I can't wait for the wedding to be over, but at the same time I'm afraid of what the future holds. I wish I could just communicate to him clearly. He's very capable of understanding. Any advice? No breakup recommendations, please. As in, please provide genuine advice. I love this man to death.